Warm greetings to everyone and welcome to today's IMC webinar. My name is Jitendra and I'm delighted to be your host for this session. At International Mentoring Center, we are passionate about empowering professionals through mentoring, leadership development, and building vibrant communities of practice. Our mission is to create transformative experiences that help individuals, organizations thrive by sharing stories, skills, and support. We believe in the power of authentic human connection, and that is exactly what today's webinar is all about. We are very pleased to welcome our speaker today, Sebastian Tai. Sebastian is a digital transformation and e-commerce leader with over 15 years of experience driving growth, innovation, and customer engagement across Southeast Asia. He has held senior regional roles at Abbott, Lazada, and Mettler Toledo, leading cross-functional teams in digital commerce, marketing technology, and business transformation. Today's session is about mentoring through struggle. Do you have to be successful to guide others? Before we'll start, few quick notes to begin. The webinar will last about 60 minutes. Feel free to use the chat box to send your questions. We will have time for Q&A session towards the end. This session is being recorded and will be available to you afterwards. And now, without further delay, I'm happy to hand the virtual floor to Sebastian. Sebastian, the stage is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind introductions.
Thank you.
So before we start, I just have a bit short intro about myself, a very brief introductions. So on paper, my work has been in digital transformations and e-commerce. Like introductions, I have spent about 15 years across companies like Abbott, Lazada, and Mettler Toledo, across FMCG, marketplaces, and B2B. So yes, a lot of my professional life has been about growth, system, and change. But over time, I realized something. Digital transformation is never just about technology. It's about people, how they adapt, how they struggle, and how they make sense of change when things don't go as planned. This is why along corporate work, I mentor startups and young professionals. I also a guest lecturer in the universities in Malaysia. And also I'm a writer for some of the key magazines in Malaysia. So without further delay, this is actually our topics today. A very good evening, everyone, again. Thank you for being here. Before I start, I want to be clear about one thing. This session is not about success stories, right? It's not about having everything figured out. It's not about questions I struggle a long time. It's about a questions that I keep asking myself personally. Do you have to be successful to guide others? Because for a long time, I believe, I keep asking myself, the answer is always yes, I have to be successful to guide others. And that belief kept me quiet when I didn't need to be. Today is a very simple conversation. It's about what I learned when life didn't go as planned. Do you have to be successful to guide someone else? Now, this is a question that you can actually reflect for a moment, because you have to self-reflect. There's no definite answers, because it will help you to notice how it feels. Because most of us already carry out a definite answers, even if we have never said it out loud. Many of us quietly believe that we should only guide others after we are more confident, more stable, maybe more successful. And that belief sounds reasonable. But it's also the belief that stops a lot of capable, caring people from ever stepping forward to help people. And that's why these questions matters. When I ask that questions to everyone, most people don't have the answers directly. Instead, something else comes out, a quiet condition that we place on ourselves, not spoken, not written, but it's very real questions, which is these slides. I will only mentor others after I fix my own life. Now, this was also happens to me too. I didn't read this in a book. I didn't get this in the workshops. I heard it in my own heart, my own head. Because there was a period in my life where things doesn't look fine from the outside. Sorry, it doesn't look fine from the outside, but inside everything felt unsettled. My career role ended. A plan didn't work out the way I thought it would. My confidence was shaken. And during that time, people still come to me and say, "Hey, Sebastian, can you help me?" They're asking for guidance. They're asking for perspective. They're asking, can we talk? And every time at the moment, I hesitated, not because I didn't care, but because a voice in my head kept saying, "Who are you to guide someone else right now? Because your own life isn't stable yet. Fix yourself before you help others." It sounded responsible. It sounded really matured. It sounded like the right thing to do. But here's what I didn't realize at that time. There is no clear moment when life becomes fixed. I kept waiting and waiting to feel more certain, more confident, more qualified. But life kept moving, right? And the people also who needed someone to talk to, they also waited. So what I learned slowly is this. This assumption doesn't protect others. It actually protects our own fear of being exposed. And the longer that we wait for permission to do that, the more we underestimate the value of simply showing up honestly for other people. That realization changed how I see mentorship completely. Now, what people see actually from the outside. So when people see me in the outside, it's actually about the leadership roles. Yeah, they see the logos, they see the brands, they recognize the multiple, national companies. They see digital transformation projects. They see the mentoring programs that I joined, the teaching engagements that I have been participated. And to be clear, this part of the story is real, right? I'm not dismissing it. I work hard for all these opportunities, and I'm very grateful for them. But these slides represent something very specific. It represents how neat a life can look from the outside. But when we see inside, right, it's different thing. From the outside, we always assume like, hey, this is all confidence. This is all confidence. This is all your achievements. This is all stability. This is all clarity. So we assume that person standing there with all these achievements has some things already figured out. And this is why sometimes we feel that we are already ready to mentor other people because this is what people see. This is what people feel. And sometimes what people don't see is where the real learning happens in these slides. Now, when people look at the previous slides, right, people assume, oh, you have a smooth journey. You have a good leadership roles, good companies, you teach before, and you are good, ready to mentor. But this slide shows something that is not being obviously shown outside because all these are something that it's not because it's embarrassing, but because it's personal, right? There was a period in my life that I thought everything was stable, but suddenly it fall apart quietly and quickly. It fall apart. So I went from a senior leadership role. I joined a startup that I believe it can work, and then the startup collapsed. Not in a dramatic way, but it collapsed, right? So it's very painful. Then the identity that I had built has lost, collapsed. The one that I tied to the title, the role, the directions, all vanished. I had responsibilities. I had houses, mortgage, I had bills. So I had no clear next steps what to do. So what I did was I became a hawker. I ran a small food store in a hawker store. I stood for hours doing very honest work, try to earn some money. And also then I take extra steps to drive Uber or Grab car in Asia to earn more revenues, right? Long hours, honest work, but this is what I need to take to earn some living. Now, a lot of time alone with all these thoughts, right? There were nights I also have to sell flowers, light sticks by the roadside. It's not because it was a learning experience, because it's a survivor that doesn't care about my ego. Now, this is the part people don't see. Not the logos, not the titles. It's the reset. It's how do you overcome all the challenges? Now, these experiences something not corporate role ever did. They strip away your performance, right? When you have been there, when your confidence has been shaken, when your identity feels unstable, when you stop giving advice from theory, when you stop pretending, you start listening differently. You start understanding fear, not as a concept, but something is very real, very human. So the four boxes on these slides below, for example, like career resets, is something that people will not see from the outside. It's your own story. It's how do you rebuild yourself when the old versions no longer fits. And if you have ever any businesses or any ventures that you have feared, that you believe in something that didn't work, and yeah, you have to learn to carry that disappointment without becoming bitter. You have any health uncertainty that you realize your body cannot even carry you forward, you have some health difficulties, or even you have some persistent doubt that, mentoring someone else while quietly asking yourself, am I still worthy to guide anyone? So here's the thing. All those experiences didn't make me a weaker mentor, but they make me a more careful one, because a more honest one to yourself, a more human one. And that's why the next part of these conversations matters. For a long time, I believe something very quietly. I believe that, my struggles make me less qualified. That the moments where I failed, reset, or doubted myself were things that, I need to hide myself in a corner or at least fix before I could guide anyone else again. And because of that belief, I hesitated. I stayed silent longer than I needed to. I waited and waited for permission that never really came, but suddenly shifted. Not it's dramatically. It happened slowly. I started to notice that these moments that humbled me is the moments that changed how I listen to people. That the times I felt uncertain were the times I stopped giving advice and started to giving presence. I had to be there with the people. That struggle didn't make me careless. It made me careful with people's feeling, careful with words, careful with certainty, careful with other people's lives. And that's when I realized this. Struggle didn't really disqualify me from being a mentor. It clarified me. It removed my ego. It forced honesty, and what was left was something much more useful than confidence. It was awareness. So these slides, when I say this out loud, readiness is not the same as success. I took years to actually understand it because for a long time, I believed something else. I believe that, once someone became successful, they were automatically ready to become a mentor, right? That success somehow meant wisdom. The achievement meant emotional safety and honesty. That belief shaped how I saw myself too. So when I lost roles, career roles, when my startups failed, collapsed, my life looked messy instead of impressive, I didn't just think I'm struggling. I thought maybe I'm not ready to guide anyone anymore. But here is what I slowly noticed. And this came from real conversations, not books. Some of the least helpful mentoring conversation I've seen came from people who were very successful. But they are very successful from the outside, but they never paused to examine the self. They spoke to the mentees very confident. They gave answers quickly. They were very certain. And somehow the person sitting across from them left feeling smaller. The mentees feel a little bit more smaller, more confused, more pressured, because it's not because the mentor was a bad person, but because the success had never forced them to reflect. At the same time, compared to some of the most meaningful mentoring moments I have been part of, came from my own life, where this mentor was, a lot of setbacks, career setbacks, and it was uncertain. He didn't have any clean answers, but he doesn't really try to be impressive. He listened to the mentees carefully. He gave advice without certainty, without telling the mentee what to do. He's more aware of his own bias, more conscious of, you know, where the story ended. And this become very true to me. Self-awareness matters more. Not your title, not your income, not how you polish your story sounds like. It's self-awareness. Knowing your limits, knowing your triggers, knowing when your advice is about you, not them. So when I first started mentoring, I didn't have this framework like this. I didn't have a blueprint. I only had discomfort. I kept noticing that some mentoring conversations help, but some did real damage. Even though everyone involved had good intentions, but so instead of asking who is successful enough to mentor, I started asking a different questions. What actually makes a mentor safe? So over time, this came from a real conversations, real mistakes, real observations. This picture, this metrics came to form in my head. Let me walk you slowly. We start on the top right, the star logo, the ideal one. This is someone who has achieved a lot and has taken time to reflect on themselves. They know their strengths, they know their blind spots, they're self-aware. They know when to speak and when to stay quiet. I have met a lot of people like this, but it's not in my life. Very, very rare. Not many. They don't dominate conversations. They don't rush to give answers, but they ask thoughtful questions. These consider a powerful mentors. And here's the important part. They are not great because they are successful. They are great because they always do self-aware. The top left is consider high success but low self-awareness. Now, this is considered a dangerous mentor because they have ego risks. This is someone who has succeeded but never stopped to evaluate themselves. They always speak with certainty, with power. They give advice confidently, like you should do this, you should do that. They are used to being, they're used to being someone who has to follow them. And because of that, they don't realize when advice turns into pressure or stress. I have seen mentees leave conversation like this. They're feeling smaller, not because the mentor was bad, but the mentor has a good intentions. Just because he doesn't really self-aware, he's using a power to actually ask the mentees to follow what he's going to say. So it's become a control relationships in the mentorships kind of relationships. Now on the bottom left, sorry, on the bottom left, with the shield logo, is something that we talk about low success and health and high self-awareness. Now, let me talk about this. This is something that is often overlooked because this kind of mentor, we can say, is someone have low success but have high self-awareness. This is someone who may still in progress, in building stage, in struggling. He still feel uncertain, but they are deeply aware of themselves. They keep self-reflect. They know what they don't know. They listen more than they speak. They are careful with other people's life. They are sensitive. So some of the best mentoring conversations that I ever had between a mentor and mentee is came from these boxes where they are not necessarily successful, but they're always self-aware because of all these challenges they have go through. Now on the bottom right are low success and low self-awareness. They are not ready. This is not a judgment, but that it's about readiness. This is someone who is struggling and hasn't yet had a space to reflect. They are overwhelmed. They are emotionally reactive. They're still processing their own experience. So mentoring from this place of people is risky, not because these mentors are weak, but because they need care before they can offer it. And here is something important. Pausing mentoring, that means you stop mentoring for a while at this stage, is not failure. It's considered responsibility that you can carry as a mentor. So when I look at this whole picture, one thing becomes very clear to me. Success doesn't decide whether you are ready to mentor, but self-awareness does. So I have learned to trust mentors, not by how impressive their stories are, not by how impressive their LinkedIn profile are. It's by how carefully they handle uncertainty. And once you see this, it changes how you mentor or even how you choose your own mentors and how you treat yourself when your own life isn't going smoothly. Now, this is a very short one. It's like this sentence might sound strong because unaware mentors causing more harm than inexperienced ones. I want to be very clear about what I mean and what I don't mean. I'm not saying inexperienced mentors are good. And I'm not saying successful mentors are bad. What I'm saying comes from something I have witnessed over and over again is because an inexperienced mentor usually knows what they don't know. They're careful, right? They are asked a lot of questions. They hesitate before giving advice. And these hesitations, that humility actually protects the person sitting across from them, which is the mentee. But unaware mentor is different. Unaware mentor doesn't hesitate. They speak quickly. They sound really confident. They give answers that feel it's a final answer. And because they have succeeded before, they don't realize how much weight their words carry. So I have seen mentees walk into a conversation like this, feeling with big hope, but they walk out feeling smaller because they feel like they're being underestimated. It's feeling like they are stressed because the mentor just asked them to follow what they have been proven to be the right way. So this slides is actually going to do is telling you when do you feel you are ready to mentor, right? This is a list that forms slowly after I mentoring for many years and with a lot of different circumstances and paying attention to what is being right and what is being wrong. So when I say you are ready, I'm not saying that uh you are really ready. I'm just trying to say here is how you're supposed to feel personally that you are already considered ready to mentor someone else. Now, the first, admit uncertainty. For me, I knew I was ready to mentor when I became comfortable by saying, I don't know. Not defensively, not as a joke, but just honestly, I don't know. Right? There was a time when I felt I had to have answers in order to be useful, but there's a moment I stop to find answers, to be need certainty. So this is a part where you have to admit uncertainty. You give the other person permission to think for themselves. You're not finding answers for them. Number two, listen more than advice. Earlier in my career, I confused helping with fixing, right? Someone would share a problem and I would immediately jump into a solution mode. But at some point, I noticed something uncomfortable. The more advice I gave to the mentee, the quieter the other person becomes. It becomes smaller. But when I learned to listen longer than I spoke, something changed. They didn't need my answer. I think they just need a space to hear their self thinking. That's when the real mentoring started to work. Third one, separate your story. This one is is important because it's easy to assume that because something worked for us, it should work for someone else. Number four, stay emotionally regulated. This was a big one for me because when I realized I wasn't ready to mentor, when someone's decision triggered me emotionally, when I felt frustrated that they weren't listening, they weren't focusing to my advice, when I felt disappointed that they didn't follow my advice at all, those emotions were signals. So readiness for me meant being able to stay calm, even when someone choose a different answers or choose a different directions. If I couldn't regulate myself, I had no business guiding someone else. The last one, show up consistently. I learned that mentoring isn't about big moments. It's about showing up again and again and again for the mentees, especially when there is no progress to celebrate and when the conversation becomes repetitive, when it's not convenient, but the consistency builds trust. And the trust is what makes everything else possible. So I hope these slides stay with you. So with all this, then you feel that you are ready to mentor. In other words, there will be a moment that you should pause from mentoring because no one likes to admit that there are some things right thing to do to actually step back from mentoring. They feel ashamed to actually admit it, especially when people are asking you for help, or especially when mentoring feels meaningful, or especially when it gives you a sense of purpose during difficult seasons. But there are sometimes that you will feel that you need to just give mentoring a pause. Number one is when you need validations. There will be a times when you realize that, mentoring, your mentoring is not because you want to help. You're mentoring because you want to feel useful. I'm sure that some of you will feel that you mentor because you want to stay useful. You needed to be seen. You needed to feel that you are still mattered to the society. When other parts of your life feel unstable, you want to be shown to the society that you are still seen. That is a dangerous place to mentor from because when you need validation, you are subtly want the other person to succeed for you. And that shifts the relationships, right? Pausing here isn't failure, it's an honesty to yourself to actually give space to you and your mentee. Project fear. So for me, I noticed it when I started saying things like, be careful. Mentee, you have to be careful. This is risky. I tried that once and it didn't work. But when I said this out, I realized that I wasn't really protect them. I was actually protect myself. Because from living for my own disappointment, is actually when I have fear, I will start to tell people not to do that, right? Because I scared people will not succeed and reflect on me. So we turn our past into someone else's ceiling. That is not guidance, right? There's inheritance of anxiety. So that's a moment that you think that you should actually pause. Now, number three, seek importance. If mentoring makes you feel powerful, needed, or important, that's a signal because not because these feelings are evil, it's normal, but because they are human, right? So mentoring should never be about filling your own emotional gaps. If the thought of being needed feels more satisfying than seeing someone grow independently, it's time to actually step back. Last one, lack boundaries. Now I learned this one the hard way. Mentorship is not a therapy, right? It's not a rescuing. It's not living someone else's life for them. So if you find yourself emotionally drained, over-involved, or feeling responsible for someone's decisions, that's not commitment. That's a boundary issue. And boundaries protect both people. So when I talk about pausing, I'm not asking about quitting. I'm talking about self-respect. Pausing is not just throwing someone else away or abandoning someone else. It's making sure that when you do show up, you show up clean, clear, and you are genuine there for them, not for yourself. Um, I think we still have time. So I jump into the slides. So once I understand that mentoring is about presence, not rescue, it become very clear why boundaries that I mentioned is matter so much. Because without boundaries, the presence turns into a stress, a pressure. And that's what this slide is going to talk about. It's talk about mentorship is not about therapy, it's not about authority, it's not about ego, it's not about control, it's about care. And if you have all this, it makes the whole things dangerous. So this is where if you know that you are actually in these four areas, you should actually then start to think and reflect yourself, self-awareness, that maybe you should pause mentoring for a while. So once I understood boundaries, something else becomes really clear to me. Mentoring doesn't require perfections, right? It requires something much simpler. For a long time, I mean, this was my definition of success. Even if I didn't say it out loud, it was perfect. It's fearless. It's always winning. But, not close enough to keep chasing. But because when we look at success from the outside, this is often what it looks like. The polished story, the confident decisions, the uninterrupted upward line. And I will be very honest to you. I spent years trying to live to this picture, trying to appear composed, even when I wasn't really wanted to, trying to sound confident, even when I had doubts, trying to frame, my losses as lessons before I had actually processed them. But here is what experience taught me. If success required being perfect, most real growth would never count. If success required being fearless, we will only hear stories from people who never took a real risk to become successful. So, everything that I shared today, the resets, the uncertainty, the mistakes, the moments where mentoring went well, and some moments doesn't went well, this is where I eventually landed. Not because it sounds, elegant, not because it fit nicely on the slides, but because over time, this was the only definition of success that consistently helped out. It's presence. Presence comes first. Mentally didn't feel, right? It didn't feel when you don't have any answers. It feel when you, as a mentor, wasn't really there for the mentee. When you feel distracted, when you're rushing, when you're listening just enough to respond, not to understand the real situations. So some of the most meaningful mentoring moments that I have went through was really quiet. No advice, no backthrough. But just because being fully there for someone in the middle of hardships, presence sounds simple, but it's very rare. But it really matters more than what you think for the mentee. Number two, honesty. So honesty means is true. Is being able to say, I don't know. I struggle with the same too. I'm not sure what the right answer is for you. Because honesty is really build trust between you and mentee faster than the confidence ever could. The honesty will tell the other person, the mentee, that you don't have to perform well here. It's not a stage. So if the performance drops, this is where the real conversation begins. The mentee will actually reveal his true heart and talk about real conversations to the mentor. The last one, consistency. Mentoring isn't about one powerful conversation. It's about showing up again and again and again for the mentee, especially when there's no achievements to celebrate, especially when, the same questions come back again and again. Consistency stays because it will help the mentee to feel trust, and he will feel that you're not there because you want him to improve. You are there is because the mentees is matter to you. And that's what turns the whole guidance into trust. Just be short. If I have to reduce everything that I've shared today into just 3 rules, it will be this. Don't pretend. If you start sounding like you are presenting a TED talk or, like a presentation in a new Apple launch, so then you should pause because you have probably gone too far. Number two, don't project because your fears and your regrets are very valuable life lessons to the mentees. So just not transferable files, right? So you have to don't project your achievements, but be true. Show your journey, show your fears, your regrets, and be honest to the mentee. Don't disappear because mentorship it isn't just one inspiring conversation. It is about consistency, right? It's about showing up again and again for the mentee. No performance, no authority, just honesty, responsibility, and staying there for the mentee because he's important. Last few slides. Before I end it, I just want you to say with this question for a moment, what have you survived that someone else is facing right now? So when I first asked myself this, I thought of very big things, right? I thought of I have a big career before. I'm a VP of the company, and then it failed. There's a setbacks. I joined a startup, it collapsed. I had to start all over again. But then I realized it's often something much relevant, much quieter. For me, it was the period that everything looked fine from the outside, but inside I felt lost. I was still functioning. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm still functioning. I'm still working. I'm still showing up, but I was carrying a lot of doubt alone. And at the time, I didn't think that experience was useful. I didn't feel like a success. Later, I met someone, a mentor for me, who was in the exact place. So he's not project his success to me, but he's very honest. He tell me about his journey, his challenges, and all I needed from him is because he said that he has already been there before and he will be there for me throughout my journey. Not advice, not solutions. It's just sentence help me to see the shift. So I would actually encourage maybe you have something that you have survived before, and you can also help someone who are facing the same right now. So if you take everything we have talked about today, the struggle, the process, the uncertainty, it all points to one simple thing. Mentorship was never about having you have to figure out everything. It's about remembering what it feels like when you don't have answers for everything, but you're still willing to sit with someone else there. I mean, this is what matters most in mentorships. Thank you. And for information, this is my LinkedIn link. If someone else, I mean, feel free to actually add me into LinkedIn. I would be happy to stay connected. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for that inspiring and valuable presentation. We will now open the floor to questions from our audience. If you have a question, please type it in the chat box. We will try to get through as many as time allows. If we didn't have time to answer your question, please feel free to follow up with Sebastian or contact the IMC team. We would be happy to continue the conversation beyond today's session. So please type your question in the chat box if somebody would like to ask anything to Sebastian.
You can ask me anything about, like the journey, be honesty. Maybe there are sometimes I may not have the right answers, but this is what, the learning is from both of us.
Or maybe you can raise your hand. I can unmute you so you can talk to him directly. Yes, Mr. Chan. Yeah, here you go.
Hi, Sebastian.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, I understand you handle Lazada. It's quite a big team to handle. So, in such a big organization, I'm sure there's a lot of politicking and all that, right? So, how do you control all those people underneath, below you, backstabbing and then talking bad about you and all those people? Do you sack them or fire them immediately or what? Because I think Malaysia, you cannot simply fire people. So, there's a proper channel, to arrange this under Employment Act.
Uh, so there was the early days when I become a VP in Lazada. I think it's 15 years ago when Lazada just stepped their foot in Malaysia. So that time it's still considered a startup. So yes, I have been leading a team of 40 people under me. It's more on sales teams. And because it's a startups, right? So they are growing very fast. And of course, the turnover is quite fast and everything is focusing on results and focusing on um, whoever can actually sit under the boat and follow the progress. That time was not so much on firing people because the time Lazada still need people, right? Because there are startups that they still need people to drive the sales. I believe you're mentioning about the restructuring is only recently when Alibaba bought over Lazada because they have changed system, they have changed format, they have changed management. By the time I was already left Lazada and joined other company. But back to your questions, that how do I manage backstepping as a leader? I believe that is unavoidable. As long as if some things that you believe you are doing the right things is for the company and for the objective, you can't actually stop other people to agree with what everything that you have done, as long as you are true to yourself, that every steps that you have done is actually for the betterment of the company.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions regarding the mentorships? I may not have true everything answers because I mentor uh, people starting from 7 years ago as a freelance. So of course there are a lot of different people who came to me. It can be a young professionals, a students, or it can be a refugee from refugee camp. So everyone have different objective and different motives when coming to mentorships.
We still have time. If somebody has any questions, they can ask their questions, or if they do not have any questions, we can move forward. Then you can connect back with Sebastian on LinkedIn, or you can drop an email on support@mentoringcenter.org as well.
Got another follow-up question, Sebastian.
Yep.
Yeah, with the advent of AI, do you see that the workforce being taken off because with the AI replacing human beings and all that? So, what is your take on that?
I mean, it's a very common fear of people right now. But to be honest, AI is just a system, right? So you still need the people to actually analyze it, analyze the decision whether the AI has given you the right answers. So it's not that with AI people has to be replaced, but people has to learn how to make the right decisions by leveraging AI. So AI will be a complementary tool to help people to make better decisions and improve efficiency in making new ideas, improvement, or innovations. So it doesn't replace human entirely, but it helps human to make better decisions. So right now, I mean, more people will go into mastering and learn more about AI because they want to know how AI can help them instead of not following the whole progress and the whole trend. So I hope that answers your question. It's not going to be replace human entirely. We still need human, but the role has to be changed. That's why we call it mindset or mindship changes, right? Change management. We have to change it accordingly because AI is dominant right now. So we have to learn, we have to master, we have to improve.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
Hope that answers your questions. Yeah.
Mr. Chen, do you have any follow-up question on the same?
Yeah, I would say it's sometimes AI also give you wrong results. So
Yeah.
sometimes you put in the wrong prompt and all that, they come up with the
Yes.
wrong information, and then can be misconstrued to a different direction and all that. That's
So
why
that's why we
information.
need people to actually know how to give the right instructions to the AI, the right prompts, and how do we manage to assess whether the AI is giving the right answer that we want. So we still need human, as an inspector to guide AI to make sure that AI given the right answers.
Khalid, I think so you have raised your hand. I'm unmuting you, so you can ask a question.
Hello, everyone. Greetings to IMC teams. And how are you, Sebastian? Hope you are doing well.
Good.
Actually, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. But in one slide, you mentioned in order to become a mentor, there is one item you mentioned, you have to separate your story or forget it, something like this. Can you please clarify it more for me? It will be my pleasure.
Sorry, can you repeat the questions? Which slides that you are talking about?
No, when you in your slide, you mentioned in order to become a professional mentor, there is some criteria. One of them, you mentioned that you have to separate your story.
Separate the story.
Yes, you mentioned if you want to become a professional mentor like this, so you have to separate your story. So I just want to know exactly what does it mean. You mean not tell anyone about your story, or what exactly the meaning behind this slide? It will be my pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I believe you're talking about these slides. Yes, so the question should be when you are ready to mentor other people, is when you're able to separate your story. What it means is because sometimes it's very easy to assume that whatever that has been worked on us, it should also work for someone else. We tend to have that easy assumption that, oh, this worked for me before, so I believe the same will work for you. So what it means here is we have to separate your story, your journey with the other people's journey. It's totally different. We cannot compare and say, hey, it works before for me, it should also for you. Right? So this is
Yeah.
what I meant. We have to always separate your story from other people. We can share, but we cannot assume that whatever the same for our story, it will be the same happens to other people. Is that clear?
Yes. Yes. Pretty clear. Thanks a lot, Sebastian. Thank you. Thank you for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll wait for next 1 minute. If somebody has any questions, please ask, and then we'll move forward.
Sebastian, when somebody does not listen continuously, they're quite stubborn in their ways of working. What would you do? Do you have a counseling for them, or what do you do?
You mean as a mentor or as a boss
No,
or
as
as
a
a
boss,
superior?
if somebody under you, you feel, I mean, sometimes you keep on telling them the same thing, they cannot perform up to the standard or meeting the KPI.
So is this person that you're willing to keep or you're not willing to keep? I mean, is the person that you see potential? That is some
Yeah.
questions that you need to reflect, whether he is still considered someone that can be improved, there's a room for improvement, or someone that you feel that is a toxic to the company environment. Because if you keep letting that to be in your team, it might be impact to the other teams in your company, right? So first of all, you have to be able to assess, this person can be helped or is worth to help because he is a potential person in your company. If the answer is yes, then I think you will have a series of your conversations to the people, to the persons by lining up performance evaluations to help the person to improve week by week. And then coaching and mentoring comes in place to make sure that he is progressing with right mentoring and right monitoring every single week or every single month. But if it's someone that you really feel like, okay, it's enough, it's a toxic, it's starting to create a nuisance to the company culture, then I think it's something that you may consider as a boss to start to, because I believe under HR level, there will be a steps, right? But how do you perform like by letting this person out with a proper procedures, by giving first warning, second warning, and some PIP plans. So that's something you have to decide as a boss.
Yeah, correct. Thanks.
Okay, if someone will have any further questions, you can feel free to directly connect with Sebastian. You have his LinkedIn profile as well, or you can drop an email on support@mentoringcenter.org. Sebastian, I would like to thank you once again for sharing your expertise with us today. It was truly enriching. And thank you everyone who joined us. We hope you found this session meaningful and inspiring. Stay tuned for upcoming IMC events and webinar. And if you would like to get involved or learn, please visit mentoringcenter.org. Wishing you continued growth and connection in your mentoring and leadership journey. The IMC team wishes you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance.